Mental health and its treatment have been the focus of this decade-long body of work titled Side Effects. Since being diagnosed with a mental illness in 2006, my work has become the medium to describe my disability through the language of visual art. In this sense, I am able to express myself and be a vital part of society. This cathartic, introspective body of work reflects my own personal struggles with hearing voices, delusions, paranoia, and depression. While I was in the hospital in New York City, one of the daily activities was art therapy. One of the first sessions I attended was focused on the mandala. My work with the mandala imagery reflected my inner state of mind at that moment. According to Carl Jung, creating mandalas helps stabilize, integrate, and reorder inner life. The form of the spiral emerged as I began to intermix my own thoughts with medical definitions of psychiatric diagnoses. I started to rip out parts of the paper I was writing on and called these pieces wounds. In these pieces that I refer to as stains, I added watercolor. And in torn, I began tearing the paper. Since consuming pills have evolved into my daily routine, they have become a central focus for many of the works. I made an assemblage out of repurposed materials, soundproofing board, wallpaper, and a medication I was no longer taking. This was when I began to work with pills, wallpaper, and alluding to the idea of sound. My use of wallpaper refers to the short story The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. The main character suffers a nervous breakdown and experiences psychosis, as I did in the early onset of my illness. Wallpaper covers walls just as pills cover the symptoms of mental illness experienced while in treatment. In the installation Hearing Voices, my intention was to mimic the experience of auditory hallucinations. The speakers were hidden behind the walls so that the voices appeared externalized and sounded as though they were coming from outside of the room. Hanging on the walls, covered with wallpaper, was a series of mixed media objects that incorporated pills. The sound was made by recalling my experience of hearing voices, writing what I could remember as a stream of conscious text document. Once the text was complete, I recorded my own voice and edited the audio into 8 separate soundtracks. The action of taking down the installation Hearing Voices, detaching the walls and reusing them as material artifacts became the rubble in my mind, the deconstruction of hearing voices. The walls from the installation lean up against the walls of the gallery, to suggest the need for support in order to overcome distress. The cracks on the plywood surface, the rips in the wallpaper are meant to expose that which is generally hidden from view. All the pills in my house was the beginning of the use of resin in my work. Using resin allowed me to preserve the pills. I started to work with themes and types of pills. All white pills, sleeping pills, purchasing over-the-counter pills, emphasizing the multicolored marketing of pills, pills bought at the dollar store, diet pills, birth control pills, antidepressants, and pink pills, obviously marketed to women. In Mrs. Dalloway, I reintroduced the use of wallpaper and referred to the novel written by Virginia Woolf. The work was equally inspired by the contemporary film titled The Hours. I also started to work with the form of the mandala again. As I was making the crushed pill work titled Relapse, I began to photograph the pills with my cell phone as I was crushing them. The series of photographs are installed with the actual crushed pill piece in a nonlinear pattern, mirroring the unsuspecting onset of a relapse during the recovery process. I have also made a series of figurative works that embody the psychological and physical toll mental illness as well as medications take on the body. I made this work using plaster bandages as a way to refer to the feeling of being wounded. In Medicine Ball, I was interested in making a work where the hand appeared to come out from the wall. And then again in the installation Hand to Mouth. The use of color has a double meaning. It reflects both emotions as well as the multicolored manufacturing of the pills themselves. Again, I used plaster bandages to suggest the need for recovery. A psychiatrist once told me that schizophrenia is a translation of the words the split mind and has nothing to do with the popular misconception of having a split personality. In addition to my pill-based works, I work with silkscreen images of pills and pill bottles. I began photographing the pill bottles I saved while making my resin-based works, altering the images so they appeared more like a sketch or drawing, and then making silkscreens on board. Then I started to photograph pills to make silkscreen images and printed them onto wallpaper. The image of the parrot reoccurs as a way to describe the externalization of the voices in my head. With a box filled with prints, I decided to collage them into a fragmented pattern. Images of bird cages, parrots, elephants, and empty chairs on wallpaper are repeated throughout these works. Despite being in recovery, this imagery is meant to allude to the lingering psychic grip hallucinations and other symptoms of psychosis have on the mind. Each work is a portrait of a time in my life, a memory, and seen together they tell a story. They are markers of what I was experiencing, my state of mind influenced by a particular medication. While I have taken a very personal approach in making this body of work, I realize it also has a universal impact. Many people, after seeing the work, share stories of similar struggles. Those interactions nourish the drive to keep going, to continue to make work that touches my audience and encourages dialogue.